Intellectual property is actually a grouping of what could be classified as 4 different areas of law: patent, copyright, trade secret, and trademark law. Each of those are distinct areas of practice in the legal world, but we group them together, all call them intellectual property. The common thread is they all have to do with something that is of the human intellect. That's where the notion intellectual property comes from. Unlike real estate, which is earth and soil, patents, ideas, communications, works of art, that type of thing require the human brain in order to be created, thus the term intellectual property. Everybody usually jumps immediately to the internet and the wild, wild west of the internet now. It makes it much easier to publish on the internet. It's much easier to share files, digital files, but it also makes it extremely easy to copy, and copy without any identification. So if you have something that's on the internet, for example, if we put this video on the internet and somebody copies it, if they copy it without our permission and we maintain copyrights in that, have they violated our copyright? Well, certainly they have. It's a clear case that they have. But how do we go after this person? We don't know who this person is that took it. It's impossible to track it down of where it goes on a general basis. So the internet has become the world's most aggressive copy machine for intellectual property. And the problem with this copy machine is we don't know who's behind the buttons of downloading. I often give my students this example. Music. The way music is distributed and sold at the retail level is completely changed in the last 10 years. You see record stores closing up. iTunes is now the #1 way of selling music. If I asked my students 5 years ago whether it was illegal or not to download things on the internet, download music files on the internet, they'd say, well, it's okay because it's on the internet. But then I would suggest to them, well, let's say we do this. Let's say there's a Barnes & Noble in town that has a music store attached to it, a bricks and mortar store. And let's say that we open up a store right next to that bricks and mortar store. You do, for example, and you collect all your friends' CDs and musical recordings, and you put them on a shelf in this store, in this bricks and mortar store right next to Barnes & Noble, and you put a big sign up in front that says, come on in and take what you want, copy whatever you want. And immediately the students go, well, you can't do that. I mean, that's copyright violation. Why is it different just because it's happening on the internet? Today's students now, when I ask them, is it illegal to download music on the internet? Today's students are now saying, yes. They understand that there's a legality and an illegality of downloading music on the internet. And so we've seen a complete shift, and iTunes is one. I mean, iTunes and Apple does a spectacular job at protecting copyright rights and yet having the money flow where the money needs to flow for the industry to produce what we want the industry to produce. So that, I think, is the biggest issue everybody points to. There are some other topics like dilution and trademark law, and some Patent Reform Act things that are going along, but they're not quite as publicly visible as things that are happening on the internet. And the internet moves very quickly. It always amazes me from year to year to see the change in not only student use of the internet, but student understanding of what is, again, legal to do on the internet and not legal. 3 years ago, students would be ripping files, case files, and music files off the internet thinking it's perfectly fine. Today, they understand that they're not supposed to do that.